Coming up on Front Porch Politics. 5 years ago, protesters filled the streets of Raleigh.
I said, we'll start throwing things. All right, we're gonna back off.
And a week later, hundreds showed up for George Floyd's North Carolina funeral.
And we have to come together to bring unity.
4 years ago, you met three people we met during that coverage.
And I just remember feeling angry.
Do you think you were heard?
Yeah.
I can't stop everything, but I can show up.
Now, 5 years after Floyd's death, we catch up again to see how they view our state and nation today.
I would say I have hope, even though I'm disappointed by some of what I see going on around us.
I feel like it's a slow but steady change that has to take place.
As chaotic as this moment seems, I think it's a natural progression of where we were 5 years ago.
Welcome to another edition of Front Porch Politics, the show that puts politics back into our communities. I'm Tim Boyum. 5 years ago, about this time, I covered the protests after the days of the death of George Floyd here in downtown Raleigh. The destruction of businesses at night garnered a lot of the attention, overshadowed everything else, and the peaceful protests earlier in the day that were partially led by a 19-year-old. 5 years later, we're meeting up with him again to see what he's doing. This time we had to travel a little further.
This is a youth-led, spontaneous protest.
When you're 24 years old, 5 years is a long time. But when you think about what Greer Webb has seen and done,
But y'all, my voice is tired.
he's not just another 24-year-old. A young man focused on his future and the world around him.
It was just kind of a natural next step for me.
5 years after he helped lead Raleigh protests in the wake of George Floyd's death, we reunite to talk the past, present, and future. So much can happen in just 5 years.
I don't believe that enough change has come when it comes to police accountability and when it comes to racial injustice in this country.
Time is a funny thing.
It's so hard to believe that it was 5 years ago that George Floyd was murdered.
It's mid-May, and we're retracing the footsteps Greer Webb made on May 30th, 2020.
Not really sure what was coming next, but knowing that I had to use my voice to speak out.
He was 19 years old and a UNC Chapel Hill student.
Downtown Raleigh, Fayetteville Street right now.
A movement this teenager channeled into a youth protest group, holding news conferences and pushing for change in Raleigh police policies.
But y'all, my voice is tired. I want my eyes to be tired from reading policies that are enacted that we're demanding. I want my fingers to be tired from flipping through the pages of policies being told that are going to be implemented to us by city and town councils.
In the years that followed, the protests faded, but Greer remained active. He was young, but a leader, a voice that demanded to be heard.
Good evening. I said good evening. There we go.
A year after the protests, he was inducted into the Wake County Public School System Hall of Fame.
I have this inherent love for people, lifting people up, defending them, learning more about them, hearing their stories, and so that's always called me into leadership.
A constant force to make sure young voices remain in the debate.
I do believe that MAGA Republicans, as President Biden called them, are a threat.
But how would he harness this into a career? Turns out we had to make a road trip to get the update.
Are you done learning content in all your classes?
It's nearing May in Atlanta, a hint of humidity previewing the southern summer ahead. Finals are a week away at Emory University's School of Law.
I've always loved the law because I love to argue. I love to debate, and I just love current events and being able to talk to people and listen to them and learn their stories. And so it was kind of natural for me. We're here in Atlanta, which is the civil rights capital of the country.
24 years old now, he remains focused on justice and representing young people.
It's also important that we each do things that leave a lasting impact and a legacy, and we engage in activities that we like to do. And so for me, that's mentorship. I love going home to North Carolina and stopping by Sidekicks Academy. What I've learned over these past 4 years, I've been able to cement my purpose and what I want to do. And again, that's not only helping people, but it's bettering the lives of those around me.
His faith provides a guiding light.
I want to be like Christ because I've sure had some good days. But I've also had some hills to climb. Somebody knows where I'm going here.
Leading in prayer and sometimes song.
We need God.
Combining his faith in God with his journey for justice.
What are you waiting for to get dressed and head out onto God's battlefield of righteousness?
My Christian faith teaches me that we should all look out for one another, and particularly we should want to help the marginalized. We should look to assist those who may not always be able to help themselves.
I don't know if we're in a much better place. I just think we're in a different place.
When we met Greer in 2021, a year after the protests, he worried little had changed.
We've got to continue working with grace, continue to forgive, but also hold those in positions of power accountable. And we've got to move toward becoming an anti-racist society.
5 years later, I asked the same question in Raleigh and Atlanta.
I still think it was a turning point for this country. It was, folks had a reckoning, but we didn't see that policy change.
Back in his hometown of Raleigh, Webb wants a bolder approach.
What's stopping Raleigh and other cities as well from being staunch advocates for justice, I think, is this whole idea of we don't want to push too hard. We don't want to upset the wrong people. And my question is, why not? You know, why not really push for justice? Why not really do something that other cities haven't done? I think it helps to compare them as much as possible.
At Emory, Webb is a member of the Black Law Students Association. This spring, he was also elected Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Emory Moot Court Society. He's frustrated with policy changes like removing DEI policies and positions in America, but he thinks those protests 5 years ago had an impact.
However, what I really wanted to see was policy change at the city level or at the local level, at the state level, and at the federal level with the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. And those things just really haven't come to fruition.
As Webb wraps up year 2 of law school, his future has begun to take shape.
And I want to help people. And I think the law is a great way to do that. And so right now I'm leaning toward criminal litigation, and specifically criminal defense.
I saw a radio interview with you. I think they introduced you as the future president of the United States.
If I get an update with, our future president.
Politics something that might come still someday? Or
I would say
in
so.
the back seat to maybe?
I think it's definitely back there. I mean, again, it all comes down to people for me. I love people. I love being able to represent others.
Protesting for change at 19, pursuing a law degree at 24. Who knows what our next story will unveil by the time he turns 30.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll head to Fayetteville to meet with the young man who started the protests in the all-American city to see what he's doing 5 years later. Welcome back to Front Porch Politics. I'm Tim Boehm. This month, 5 years later after the death of George Floyd, we're catching up with some of the people that we met back then who were part of the protests in George Floyd's North Carolina funeral. For our next story, we head to Fayetteville to meet with a young man who helped start the protests there. And 5 years later, he's using his voice in a much different manner.
It's teaching me more than what's in the books.
In some ways, Keem Jones is a conundrum.
You shy guy by nature?
Yes, low-key.
Shy on one hand, but sprung into the spotlight after a single Facebook post sparked Fayetteville's protest after George Floyd's death.
Floyd! Floyd!
5 years later, we are back in the Ville to see what he's doing now
You could have just released that one song.
and whether the world has changed 5 years after George Floyd.
I can be honest. 1360 Davis Street, man.
We first met Keem Jones 4 years ago in the doorway of the abandoned home he grew up in.
Probably one of the worst areas in the city, like this area known as the donut hole. You don't want to say forgotten about, but it was forgotten about.
You quickly learn why fighting for the future became a big part of his life.
4 days before her birthday, my sister was murdered.
So perhaps it should not have been a surprise. George Floyd's death lit a fire in the shy young man to find his voice. And it started with a simple Facebook post.
That's the day the city stood still.
That post inspiring the protests in the all-American city.
Floyd! Floyd!
They gathered at the Market House, the place where enslaved people were once sold, became the center of the protests.
It's still surreal.
5 years later,
Just standing here in this spot, it kind of just makes me remember like everything and everybody that was out here. Again, the street was packed.
the words "End Racism Now" remain on the pavement, but Keem's part of a movement to paint a new message within eyesight, featuring J. Cole, a famous rapper and Fayetteville native.
What we did on the backside over here with the Welcome to Fayetteville mural kind of shifts the attention from this place right here to, a more welcoming thing.
The mural, a symbol of change in Keem, too.
Rather than trying to do more than I can, I do exactly what's in my will, and that's, using my pen to tell the story.
Just months after the protests, he published his first article in the Fayetteville Observer. He didn't realize it, but it would change his life.
Richard Fisher, this is Tim Boyers.
These days, you can find Keem in front of a mic.
Until he get like that good W again.
He's a journalism student at Fayetteville State, talking music on the radio.
It's been a lot of rappers popping up at these wrestling events now.
And editing the school paper.
So I'm the opinion editor. So we'll call it View, so I do this whole layout of this page.
A passion planted after the protests, then nurtured through a tough time.
It started out really as a mental health thing, being able to express myself in a healthy way, because I got a lot of backlash for a picture I took with Lloyd Trump.
During the 2020 campaign, he was invited to a Trump campaign event, a surprise after what happened in 2016. Long before college, curiosity drew Keem to a Donald Trump rally in March 2016 at the Crown Coliseum. But it did not go as expected.
Yeah, we were told to leave because, you know, it was a back and forth between two people. We just got caught in the middle trying to de-escalate the situation.
On the way out, he was elbowed by another man, but Keem was taken to the ground by police. By 2020, curiosity got the best of him again as he posed for a picture with Trump's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump. Facing intense backlash, he used his pen as a weapon.
I just started writing, and I took those pieces of paper, I typed them up, and I sent them out to like multiple newspapers. I really didn't think it was gonna be anything. I thought it was just gonna be, hey, you know, just writing, and that was it. But people actually gravitated to it. What I learned going back was like, oh, it's not all of y'all. And that's what kind of sparked the backlash, because the article that was connected to the photo of me and Laura Trump was headlined, oh, all Trump supporters are not that bad. And I really feel that way.
That moment and those stories inspiring him to head back to class and finish his degree. Now 35 years old, he's more motivated than ever.
We're having a moment of reflection, as well as we're trying to learn a new norm, because with this current administration and the way things are going, you see a lot of things getting rolled back and exposed. Look over the whole crowd, you see J. Cole. I'm like, oh, snaps.
During those initial protests in 2020, Keem's role found himself face to face with Fayetteville's favorite son, rapper J. Cole, the man on the mural Keem helped make happen.
How this man took his hometown, turned it into a brand, and impacted the lives of others with it.
5 years later this spring, they actually met again.
He said he remembered you.
Yeah, he definitely remembered this moment of being out here.
He's covered Dreamville, J. Cole's Raleigh Music Festival, for the Fayetteville Observer, and it's further inspired his own dreams in journalism, using the power of his voice in a different way, not in protest, but in the power of a pen, building a future for his own kids.
I'm putting kids out into this world that are gonna inherit whatever goes on. So my duty is to ensure that I'm doing my part to create a better world than what I got.
Time for one last break. When we return, we reunite with a man we met in line at George Floyd's North Carolina funeral with a fascinating story of his own. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Front Porch Politics. I'm Tim Boyum. This month, 5 years after the death of George Floyd, we're catching up with some of the people that we met back then. It was this month, 5 years ago, that George Floyd's North Carolina funeral was held. And we met a white man in line who met a black woman in line. And their story captivated all of us.
The longleaf pine, entrenched in the state's roots, culture, and economy.
But all the trees in here are 300, 400 years old.
But a tree with a complicated racial history as well.
The amount of labor required to do that came directly out of slavery.
A history in some ways, as you will see, that led Jesse Wimberly to George Floyd's funeral 5 years ago.
I was quite amazed at that funeral, how few white people showed up at that.
5 years later, we are back to see what Wimberly is up to and if he feels the country has made any progress.
We're at my family farm of 4 generations.
Among the pines of Moore County, Jesse Wimberly lives in a family cabin dating back to the 1800s.
My great-great-grandfather was killed at Antietam, and my great-grandfather became head of household at 12 and set out to find work. And in North Carolina, at that time, right after the Civil War, there was only one job, and that was forestry, and turpentine is what you did.
When we visited 4 years ago, we saw that history in an old, worn photograph.
This is one of my prized possessions. So this is my great-grandfather down here in the right-hand corner, and this is opening day on a new turpentine orchard.
In 2020, we first met Jesse in line at George Floyd's North Carolina funeral in Rayford.
I said, well, I need to go there. It's a community I work in, so I said, I'm just going to go there and show up and have a presence there to say, we see this injustice.
While parking, he met a woman named Gail Myers from South Carolina, and I met both of them when they were in line to enter the church.
I want people to understand how this affects everybody. Black, white, it doesn't matter. And we have to come together to bring unity.
We tried twice to track down Gail since, but never found her.
Meeting Gail is the kind of thing that really keeps me going in life. I was quite amazed at that funeral how few white people showed up. And that was, I guess, if anything, was a little disturbing to me.
When you dig deeper into Jesse's life, his seemingly random trip to the Floyd funeral will not surprise you.
This is where I got my start in longleaf, is right here.
This is Weymouth Woods in Southern Pines.
All the trees in here are 300, 400 years old. The one we're celebrating today is 479 years old. Yeah.
Millions of these trees in the turpentine industry created North Carolina's earliest economy in the 17 and 1800s.
The amount of labor required to do that came directly out of slavery. That's who was working all these turpentine camps, all these timber camps. Those were all folks who had newly freed folks. As you've seen in that photo I have, all those folks had been slaves, but now they were in the turpentine industry. So yeah, very complicated history.
And part of his family history, a history that's motivated him to picture a new future throughout his life. He's worked 4 decades as a community organizer around the world, even arrested numerous times pushing for change.
Whether it's, fishermen in Newfoundland or fish farmers in Africa or wherever I've been, when I see people not exercising the power that they have, I'm drawn to that. And listen, I think maybe if you all work together, you would have a better chance of getting your needs met than working as individuals.
These days, he's literally lighting a fire to help. Recent fire destruction clouds the importance of prescribed burns, which works to reduce wildfire risk.
And as you can see, we're getting great consumption.
It's essential for the health of a longleaf forest, too, which is why Jesse started the Sand Hills Prescribed Burn Association. In a full circle moment, it combines a life of work with the longleaf pine and as a community organizer.
I would bring together 25 people who have never seen each other before. And they may come from very different backgrounds where they would normally not speak to each other and see each other. But when we do a burn and we go from someone needing something done to a group of people accomplishing that together, it is magic.
Back in 2021, a year after Jesse met Gail, I asked Jesse if anything changed in the year after Floyd's death.
I've seen a shift out of anger into more frustration.
5 years later, Wimberly stands by his message of hope despite challenges.
As chaotic as this moment seems, I think it's a natural progression of where we were 5 years ago, where people are saying, we need to make some changes, some things are not right.
29 years ago, in the midst of his community organizing, Jesse Wimberly wrote an article. I had to read him one paragraph in particular.
Politicians exploit the sense of loss. They provide us an acceptable way to knock someone other than ourselves. We blame the welfare moms. We blame immigrants. The blaming becomes the substance of our greetings, and our greetings become a metaphor for the vacuum we have filled with hate.
If you had to ask me what gets me up each morning, why I've chosen my life path, it would be that quote.
Considering Jesse's life story and that trip to George Floyd's funeral, I couldn't get it off my mind. his white great-grandfather supervising while the black men did all the work. What does Jesse think of that?
That was then. You know, that's the way that works, and it does inform me of how I want to do something differently.
And it drives him to keep pushing for change, one thing that certainly has not changed 5 years since George Floyd's death.
Now the question is, what do these conversations look like 5 years from now? Folks, we're out of time. We got to hit the road, as we always say. Find more incredible stories about incredible people here in the great state of North Carolina. We'll see you next time.